Thank you so much for letting us into your homes this evening in these most unusual times. My name's John Vallance, I'm the State Librarian, and we are here to celebrate the 41st New South Wales Premier's Literary Awards. When I was a child growing up in Sydney, there used to be signs outside evangelical churches around the place saying, "This is a CH ... what is missing?" And the answer, of course, was "you are." Well, I can tell you, and you can probably get a sense from looking behind me, that you are certainly missing here tonight. We had been planning on holding these awards in the Mitchell Library Reading Room. Now, all you can see are chairs on tables and an empty room, and I can tell you that it's not a happy sight. We're looking forward tremendously to having you back as soon as we possibly can. I'd like to start in the way we always start major events here, by acknowledging that we are on ancient lands here. I acknowledge the traditional owners, not just of the lands on which the library stands and in fact is built, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, but all the traditional owners of all the lands on which you are watching this ceremony this evening. I acknowledge elders past, present, very much emerging, and as I so often say, this library is privileged and really excited to be part of a renaissance of Australia-wide understanding and appreciation of Aboriginal culture. To get things moving this evening, I'm very pleased to introduce the President of the Library Council of New South Wales, the Honourable George Souris, who has sent us a little recording which I think he made on his iPhone, which he leant up against a book in a room of his house in Singleton, and he's going to introduce the Premier of New South Wales, who's also very kindly sent us a video introduction. So here is the President of the Library Council, the Honourable George Souris.
Writers have a special role in our community. The annual Premier's Literary Awards provide writers with the opportunity to continue with their important work which benefits our society in general. Writing a prize-winning book, play or poem is not an easy task. It takes time and dedication, and it has never been more important to show our literary community that we value their tenacity and commitment to their craft. Thank you, Premier Gladys Berejiklian, for your continued support, not only of this prize, but also of the State Library of New South Wales and the 368 public libraries across the state. It is greatly appreciated. Premier, thank you for recognising the importance of literature and the role it plays in our community. Even in these exceptional circumstances, you have made the time to prepare a message. It's a great personal pleasure to introduce the Premier of New South Wales, maintaining her 100% record, the Honourable Gladys Berejiklian.
Congratulations to all of you who've been nominated or successfully won the Premier's Literary Awards for 2020. I was so pleased to be with you all at this ceremony last year in 2019, and who would have thought we'd all be facing the COVID pandemic we are today. If anything, this year's awards, this year's publications, all forms of literature have more profound impact. We will rely on your words for inspiration, for stimulation, and for hope to get us through these difficult times, because we know the power of words, the power of storytelling, and the power of inspiring other individuals. Thank you to all of you who've been involved in the Premier's Literary Awards for 2020, and let's hope we can physically meet together in 2021 to celebrate these amazing Australians whose stories, whose words, will continue to inspire and delight for many years to come.
Thank you so much, Premier. Thank you for taking the trouble to send us that message when you have many, many things on your mind. We appreciate it very much. Before I start telling you who is on the shortlist and who has won this year's awards, I'd like to thank the senior judge for the 2020 Premier's Literary Awards, Jane McCready, and all of her fellow judges for the work that they've put into this. And I think I may as well get started. I have a feeling that you've spent a lot of time looking at heads on computer screens over the last few weeks, and you won't want to spend too many hours listening to me this evening. So it now gives me great pleasure to announce this year's recipients of the Premier's Literary Awards. Our first award is the Multicultural Award, and it's sponsored by our friends and colleagues at Multicultural New South Wales, and the Minister is going to make a brief comment about the award before I go on.
Hi, I'm Jeff Lee, Acting Minister for Multiculturalism. For over 40 years, the New South Wales Government has been a proud sponsor of the Premier's Literary Awards. They acknowledge the important role writers play in helping the community to understand multiculturalism and diversity. As always, there has been a high calibre of entrants this year, and I want to congratulate all of the shortlisted finalists. Thank you for writing the books that you have. Your work will empower readers with the knowledge to better understand our diverse communities. This is so important to eliminate hate, fear and division. Congratulations again to all the finalists. Good luck and thanks to our partners, the State Library.
This award is valued at $20,000 and it covers all genres of writing, including fiction, non-fiction, memoir, poetry, history, playwriting and script writing. The works under consideration must display a high degree of literary merit and in addition must address the Australian migration experience and aspects of cultural diversity and multiculturalism in our society. The shortlist for 2020: Growing Up African in Australia by Maxine Beneba Clark, Room for a Stranger by Melanie Cheng, White Tears, Brown Scars by Ruby Hamad, Australian Armour, The South Asian Odyssey in Australia by Samia Khatun, The Pillars by Peter Polites, and The Lost Arabs by Omar Sakar. And the winner is The Pillars by Peter Polites.
Oh my God, thank you so much for this award. I am so grateful. There are some people at Hashay I have to thank: Clara Finlay, Jenna Vukic, Jenny Topman, Sarah Holmes, Fiona Hazard, Louise Sherwin-Stark. Thank you so much to all of you. I'd like to thank Lydia, except Lydia decided to get a pack of cigarettes and then ended up at the Sydney Writers Festival, and so she's no longer my publicist. So I'll thank Tess instead. I'd also like to thank Bridget Mullane for doing wonderful editing work at Hashay on this book. And of course, I'd like to thank the commissioning editor and person who made all the structural changes to this book to make it really excellent, Robert Watkins. Thank you for letting me write this book. And thank you so much for publishing this book after I've written for it. I can't tell you how grateful I am to you and your bow ties. I'd like to thank my family. My mother Mina is a librarian. She gave me a love of books. My sister Anastasia raised me and encouraged me to pursue myself creatively. My nephews and my brother-in-law, James, Leonidas, Avram, and Petros. And of course, I have to thank my beautiful partner, Patricia, who has always been there for me, even though I'm not really there present a lot of the times. And most of all, I want to thank the judges. Thank you, Fiona, Rowana, Lachlan. You are much better artists than me, and I really appreciate this award from you. Jane, thank you so much for your tireless advocacy for writers. This award really means a lot to me, and I'm really sorry I can't be there with all of you, going to the max, partying all out.
Next, we have the Nick Enright Prize for Playwriting. It's offered for a play or a work of music drama. It's worth $30,000, and the shortlist for 2020 is Banging Denmark by Van Badham, The Feather in the Web by Nick Coyle, The Mares by Kate Mulvaney, Them by Sama Sabawi, Counting and Cracking by S. Shakthidaran, associate writer Eamon Flack, City of Gold by Meanie Wyatt. And the winner is Counting and Cracking by S. Shakthidaran, with associate writer Eamon Flack.
Hi there. It's such an honour that Counting and Cracking has won Nick Enright's Prize for Playwriting. Thank you to the Premier's Literature Awards team, to the State Library of New South Wales. I've been in Australia since I was 3 years old. I have grown up in Western Sydney, and this play is kind of a love letter to that region, and it is an honour to be recognised by the home team, by the home state, the home crowd. It means a lot to me. We live in extraordinary times, and these times are forcing us to better understand where our homes are, the communities we're based in. And it has only heightened in me how epic it is for a person to leave one homeland and build a new home somewhere else. It's happened to millions of people, it's happening to millions more, but that doesn't make each individual journey any less epic. This award helps us acknowledge that and honour that, and I thank you for that. It helps this little story from Western Sydney be even more woven into the great mass of Australian stories, and I thank you for helping us acknowledge that and honour that too.
Hello, I'm Eamon. I am very much Saki's second fiddle in the writing of this, and I'm the Artistic Director at Belvoir Street. I want to say thank you for this great honour. I want to thank the Premier, all of the judges. I was a student of Nick Enright's, so I think that Nick would be astonished that this piece of work was possible. It was only possible because of this extraordinary gathering of artists, of audiences, of communities who lent the truth of their lives to this piece of work. But more than anything, I think it was the product of decades of hard-won, carefully calibrated policy settings. And I think that tragically, sadly, those policy settings have collapsed in the aftermath of this piece of work. And I'm not just talking about this pandemic, I'm talking about really neglect and carelessness that has meant that right at the moment that this country was able to achieve something like this piece of work, that it may in fact no longer be possible again. So I would like to ask everybody who has a love of both our country, of our communities and our stories to join us in trying to make sure that such a piece of work does remain possible into the future. That's my great wish. Thank you.
And now the Betty Rowland Prize for Scriptwriting. It's worth $30,000 and is awarded for a screenplay or feature-length film, the script of a documentary film, or the script of a television or radio program. This year's shortlisted entries are On the Ropes, an episode by Tamara Asmar, Missing by Kylie Bolton, H is for Happiness by Lisa Hoppy, The Cry, Episode 2 by Jacqueline Persk, Buoyancy by Rod Rathjen. And they're joint winners this year, Missing by Kylie Bolton and The Cry, Episode 2 by Jacqueline Persk.
Hello, my name is Kylie Bolton and I'm the writer of Missing, the joint winner of the 2020 Betty Rowland Scriptwriting Prize at the New South Wales Premier's Literary Awards. I'm absolutely thrilled, and I'd like to thank the judges whose decision acknowledges the process behind the writing in as much as it acknowledges the script itself. I'd like to thank Wendy Jane Pfeiffer, whose courage enabled us to tell this story. Wendy came forward, shared her story in order to honour the legacy of Jimmy James and Daniel Mudu, the two Pitjantjatjara trackers who found her. I'd like to thank the family, friends and colleagues of Jimmy James, in particular his nephews, Trevor and David. They ensured the veracity of the script as I wrote it. Representation matters and consultation matters, and this award is testament to that. I'd like to dedicate this award to two women. One is my mother-in-law, Dawn Gilchrist, and the other is my grandmother, Pauline. Pauline died yesterday, but I'll forever love her and forever be grateful for the sacrifices she made in her own life to enable me to have mine. Thanks so much.
The Cry was a project that was very challenging for me on lots of fronts. And as a writer, it demanded and commanded me to dive down to some places that I hadn't dared go to before, which can be frightening. So it's a great honour, and it's deeply satisfying to receive such a prestigious award in recognition of this work and this project. I'd just like to thank the judges and the Premier. I think supporting writers, storytellers and artists in this new challenging time is extremely important. I wish we could all be together to raise a glass, but I'm deeply honoured. Thank you so much.
And now to the category for our youngest readers, the Patricia WRIGHTSON Prize for Children's Literature. The shortlist for this year includes Detention by Tristan Banks, One Tree by Christopher Cheng and Bruce Watley, Catch a Falling Star by Meg McKinlay, Willam, a Birrarong Story by Auntie Joy Murphy, Andrew Kelly and Lisa Kennedy, Young Dark Emu by Bruce Pascoe, and Ella and the Ocean by Leon Tanner and Jonathan Bentley. And this year's winner is Ella and the Ocean by Leon Tanner and Jonathan Bentley.
This is just the loveliest thing that could have happened. I am so pleased and proud and honoured to have Ella up there in the company of the very fine books that have won this award in the past. So a huge thank you to the judges. I also want to thank my wonderful agent, Margaret Connolly, and Susanna Chambers and Anna McFarlane from Allen and Unwin, because all three of them championed this book from the very first time they read it. And of course, my biggest thanks have to go to illustrator Jonathan Bentley, who brought my words to life in such a beautiful and heartfelt fashion. I actually started writing this book more than 12 years ago, but back then I didn't have the skills to make it work, so it sat in the folder marked abject failures for an awfully long time, until one day I pulled it out and realised that I knew how to fix it. And now this. I am very, very happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you to everyone at the New South Wales Premiers Literary Awards for choosing us for the Patricia WRIGHTSON Award for 2020. It's a real honour to be chosen among such a wonderful group of children's books. And Leanne, congratulations. Thank you so much for choosing me, and to everyone at Allen and Unwin. I hope we can celebrate properly one day soon. So thank you everybody, and stay safe.
And now we come to the Ethel Turner Prize for Young People's Literature, which is worth $30,000. The shortlist for 2020, How It Feels to Float by Helena Fox, Lenny's Book of Everything by Karen Foxley, The Little Wave by Pip Harry, It Sounded Better in My Head by Nina Kedwood, This Is How We Change the Ending by Vicky Wakefield, and Impossible Music by Sean Williams. And the winner is Lenny's Book of Everything by Karen Foxley.
Hi everyone. I'm so excited to learn that I am the recipient of the Ethel Turner Prize for Young Adult Literature, especially on such an amazing shortlist with all of those amazing writers. You know, some of the books on that shortlist are my favourites. I think some of my favourites forever. So really very excited. I want to thank New South Wales Premier, Government, State Library as well of New South Wales for forging on with these awards, and you know, to the judges as well for all the time that they've given. And with this little platform that I have, I really want to say thank you to readers everywhere who have continued to order books online from their local bookshops, and you know, artists across Australia of so many different types, you know, writers included, have taken a huge hit with everything that's going on in the world. And I want to thank anyone and everyone who is supporting the arts. Books at this time, in these really strange times, I think they can be like little escape hatches, and we can be transported with them, and we can be calmed by them and soothed by them and taught by them. And I think also, I really hope this, that we can be connected by them. So I'm incredibly grateful, and I can't say thank you enough, and I'm so excited. Thank you.
The Kenneth Slessor Prize for Poetry this year is worth $30,000, and there are 6 shortlisted entries. Enfolded in the Wings of a Great Darkness by Peter Boyle, Apparently by Joanne Burns, After the Demolition by Zenobia Frost, Empirical by Lisa Gorton, Archival Poetics by Natalie Harkin, and An Open Book by David Malouf. And the winner is Enfolded in the Wings of a Great Darkness by Peter Boyle.
I feel very honoured to be receiving this award tonight for my book Enfolded in the Wings of a Great Darkness, especially because Australian poetry is so rich and diverse at the moment, with so much great stuff coming out, both from well-established poets, older poets, writing at the peak of their career, and also from a whole generation of younger poets. The other thing I'd like to say is to give thanks, first of all, to my publisher Michael Brennan for all his hard work, and then especially to my late partner Deborah Bird Rose, who was the first reader of all these poems and encouraged me to keep writing and who I was privileged to share the last few years with its grief and sadness, but also with its moments of joy and tenderness. And I hope that those things flow into the poetry. And I'm deeply honoured and feel very humbled that I've won this award tonight. Thank you.
The Indigenous Writers' Prize is awarded every 2 years. It's worth $30,000 and it acknowledges the contribution made to our literary culture by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander writers. In 2020, the shortlisted works are Alfred's War by Rachel Bin Saleh and Samantha Fry, The White Girl by Tony Birch, and Too Much Lip by Melissa Lukashenko. And the winner is The White Girl by Tony Birch.
Hi, I want to say thank you to the judges and organisers of the New South Wales Premier's Literary Awards, and I want to say that I'm so happy, I'm so rapt to have won the Indigenous Writing Prize. It's such a pleasure. I want to give a really big shout out to all the other Indigenous writers who were not only shortlisted, but all the Indigenous writers who entered this competition, and certainly every blackfellow across Australia who's writing. I want to say that my words only matter as much as your words do, and I'm rapt to be part of such a wonderful, wonderful community of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander writers. And finally, I just want to say to all the people in my life, some really special people, my words mean nothing without your help, and I want to thank you very much.
Now we move to the Douglas Stewart Prize for Non-Fiction, which is worth $40,000. There were around 136 entries this year, and the judges had a major job reaching a final shortlist. But this is the shortlist for the Douglas Stewart Prize in 2020. The 70s by Michelle Arrow, The Enchantments of the Long-Haired Rat, A Rodent History of Australia by Tim Bonyhady, Dr. Space Junk versus the Universe, Archaeology and the Future by Alice Gorman, Australian Armour, The South Asian Odyssey in Australia by Samir Khatun, Tiberius with a Telephone, The Life and Stories of William McMahon by Patrick Mullins, and The World Was Whole by Fiona Wright. And the winner of the Douglas Stewart Prize for 2020 is Tiberius with a Telephone, The Life and Stories of William McMahon by Patrick Mullins.
Good evening. I want to say first and foremost that I'm very grateful and honoured by this award. And in that vein, I would like to thank the New South Wales State Government, the New South Wales State Library, and the judges. My book was built on an extraordinary work done by journalists and historians, and I owe a debt to them. I also owe a debt to the interviewees who spoke to me and the institutions that gave me access to documents and material for this book. Their work is vital and important. I am immensely grateful to my publisher, Scribe, led by Henry Rosenblum, who edited the book with considerable finesse and generosity. I'd also like to thank my university colleagues, particularly Matthew Ricketson and Tony Eaton, who galvanised my interest in non-fiction while I was a PhD student, and John Nethercote, who gave me advice on the manuscript while it was being written. Finally, I'd like to thank my friends and my family, my parents and my siblings, and particularly my wife, Kate, who was a rock throughout. This award's for them. Thank you very much.
The Glenda Adams Award for New Writing is sponsored by UTS and is worth $5,000. It's chosen from debut works of fiction which are submitted for the Christina Stead Prize. This year's shortlisted works are Lucky Ticket by Joey Bowie, Dolores by Lauren Amy Curtis, Antan Tiri Mogadan by Florina Enash, The House of Yusef by Yumna Kassab, Little Stones by Elizabeth Cooper, and Real Differences by S.L. Lim. And the winner is Real Differences by S.L. Lim.
Hi, I'm S.L. Lim, author of Real Differences and Revenge, a forthcoming novel about abolishing the family. Thank you to the judges, to UTS for sponsorship, and to my publisher, Transit Lounge. It is lovely to win this award. Lots of good books win prizes, lots of good books don't win prizes. I love prizes, please keep sending. Ultimately, the important thing is for readers to find resonance in my work, so I hope that this helps that occur. It really sucks that we're all hiding from plague. In spite of the distance, we are all accessing a collective experience, which ideally is what reading a book is like. And this goes for people in different communities and industries all over the world. I hope this becomes a preview for ways that we can act mutually, collectively, and across borders to sustain all of our lives. Thank you very much.
And now the Christina Stead Prize for Fiction, which is worth $40,000. There are 6 works on the shortlist this year. The White Girl by Tony Birch, The Palace of Angels by Mohammed Masood Morsi, The Electric Hotel by Dominic Smith, Exploded View by Carrie Tiffany, Wolf Island by Lucy Treloar, and The Yield by Tara June Winch. And the winner of the Christina Stead Prize for 2020 is The Yield by Tara June Winch. Every year we also invite members of the public and visitors to the library to vote on their favourite book out of the shortlisted works for the Christina Stead Prize. And this year the People's Choice Award also goes to The Yield by Tara June Winch.
I share this win with the important stories written by the great writers on the shortlist: Mohammed, Tony, Lucy, Dominic, and Carrie. My deepest thanks go to Stan Grant Sr. and Dr. John Rudder, elders and linguists, for saving and preserving the Wiradjuri language, which is central to this novel of eternal love, history, and how the mother tongue can be taken and used in the spiritual subjugation of a people. How central language is to our continual connection to country, family, and culture, to healing and pride. Minyambol Yirayurambeng, because it is a sacred thing. I'd also like to thank my agent for The Yield, Melanie Ostel, and Penguin Random House, including editor Rachel Scully and publisher Meredith Cornell, for leading me to publication and for continuing to be there as we shuffle toward the next novel. To my family, including my Nana Elsie, who is watching tonight, I love you all and appreciate your belief in my work. Thank you to the State Library of New South Wales, the judges and the New South Wales Premier for this honour, which I hope to live up to for the rest of my career. Thank you.
Every year the judges select from the winners in each category a Book of the Year, and the Book of the Year attracts an additional prize of $10,000. It gives me great pleasure to announce that the 2020 Book of the Year is The Yield by Tara June Winch.
People often ask, what is your creative process? I can't remember all the typical days I went through in writing The Yield, but they no doubt involve turning to writers like those in the varied categories tonight. I watched Australian adaptations. I read our poetry, our journalists, our storytellers. Because we turn to each other to understand the story of this country, to tell what has come before and retain hope in the continuation of our story. To the wider literary and artistic community that are in pain right now, we must keep working, writing as if the act is hope itself, a lamp in that cave of uncertainty. We must create in order to be of value, to have self-worth, with or without an audience. Without an audience, for the months of toil and isolation, we need the support. We've all mentioned the support and love of our families in these speeches, and at this time, I'd like to ask the federal government to treat our sector as our families do, and know that the arts need a family now more than ever before. The years I was at my least creative were the years I was the least financially stable. That's not to make a point about how much I appreciate the rarefied prize money tonight. It is the point. We can't tell you the story of what is happening to our society and country now if the only thing on our mind is how to afford last week's rent. There's nothing artistically romantic about poverty. We need career security and your affirmation of our value to society. To our readers and booksellers, To new online audiences, thank you for your commerce. And to the future, I hope this book will spur the Department of Education into implementing our first languages into our core curriculum. I hope to see in my lifetime enduring protection for our shared natural environment and the health and dignity of our First Nations people. And I hope to be home and to see you all once again, safe and healthy on country, on Nurrumbang, real soon. Thank you.
Well, warmest congratulations to everyone on the shortlist and of course to the winners. My warmest thanks once again to the judges who had a huge job this year. Thank you to the Premier and the President of the Library Council for their messages, and for the Minister for Multicultural Affairs for his message. And I'll end by saying I can hardly wait to be in a position to have you back here. It's pretty lonely in the Mitchell Library Reading Room without you. But thank you so much for allowing me into your homes this evening.